I'm gonna act up. I'ma need you to back up. I'ma need you to back up. Yep. I'ma need you to back up. Spilling the tea, you stirring the cup. I'm you to back up. I need you to back up. Yep.
Hello, my name is Jason Schwab. I'm a producer at RestaurantSpaces, and this is Disrupt. Welcome. But what do we do at Disrupt? Well, Disrupt is our weekly LinkedIn live show, and what we do is we go out into the industry and we look for someone who's doing some cool, interesting things, someone who's thinking about the industry in an interesting way. I then twist their arm enough until they agree to come onto the show, and then we have a chat with them. We have a short 20-minute chat, just long enough for you to wolf down some lunch maybe, or take a break from what you're doing, and maybe you'll then go away with a different idea, or you'll learn about how someone is doing something a bit differently than you're doing it, and maybe that'll affect what you do moving forward. And this is episode 4 of Disrupt. We've been at it for a month already, and our guest today, really excited to introduce you to him in a bit. His name is Justin Rosenberg. He is the founder and CEO of honeygrow, a concept I'm sure many of you out there are familiar with already. honeygrow is a fast casual brand that's based out of Philly. They have 24 locations right now, and they've always been doing really cool things. Since its inception, the brand has been entirely 100% app-based. That's how their customers and guests interact with the brand and order their food. And also, they've been a really early proponent of kiosks at their locations from the very beginning as well, which is how their guests, order their food and get their dishes when they get into a location. And really excited to talk to Justin today. He is a friend of RestaurantSpaces, been to our events in the past, and Justin's always struck me as someone who is incredibly hands-on in the way that he runs honeygrow. You can tell it's his baby. He seems to be involved in everything, and he just seems to be really switched on about where they're going next and how they can be doing things differently. Always interested to hear what he has to say when he comes to the event. And I know they've been up to some interesting things through the pandemic, and they've got some exciting things happening on the horizon as well. So, hey, enough of that. Let's bring Justin on right now and have a chat with him. Hello, Justin. Are you there? Can you hear me?
I'm here. How you doing?
Really great, really great. How's Philly today?
81 degrees, getting slightly warmer out. Kind of like Gotham City in its own way. It's Philly. It is what it is.
Perfect. Okay, and you're calling us from a new office today. I'm glad to see everything's kind of, I guess, ramping back up for you. But look, thanks for joining us on Disrupt, Justin. We'll jump straight into it. I'm pretty sure, like I said, a lot of people are familiar with honeygrow, but for those who out there who aren't as familiar with it, I'm going to give you just 42 seconds right now, and can you explain, who you are, what you do, and where you are right now, Justin?
Yeah. Did the 42 seconds start 5 seconds ago? So I just want to make sure I don't,
To be honest, it's not that exact, but look, let's start it now.
Done. So honeygrow, fast casual concept. We do freshly made stir fry salads made to order. You can create your own stuff, freshly made egg white noodles, throw in a bunch of vegetables, sauce, etc. We have 24 locations in between Philly, New York, Boston, Pittsburgh, DC metro area, Baltimore, Delaware. And I started the company 10 years ago. I'm founder and CEO. I appreciate the description of being hands-on. I am, probably to the chagrin of many people, but I love what we do, and fortunately, I'm surrounded by some amazing people at the company who, that make this company great. So they're not just me at all, and thank God, right now things are good. So all good so far.
Perfect. I think that was, I don't know. I wasn't actually timing that, Justin. I just do that so I don't have to play some Oscar music on you and wrap you up. Great. Yeah, and yeah, obviously a great team with you there, and interested to see how you guys have fared over the last year. The last time I saw you in person was actually at our in-person event on the very eve of COVID happening. So can you tell us, what happened immediately after that, and what have things been like up until right now?
For sure. So we saw each other out in Pasadena, which was an awesome event and a great trip. Hung out with lead singer Weezer. Rivers was pretty awesome. But I think we flew back, and then 2 weeks later, the world just completely changed. We were, out of nowhere, like we had to shut down. Are we an essential business? Are we not? We decided to keep our restaurants open. We wanted to give our folks an opportunity to still work. And it was probably the best thing we could have done. We wound up leaning heavily into third-party platforms, the DoorDashes of the world, Grubhub. And our business model pre-COVID was 60% folks coming in ordering at our touchscreen kiosks or coming in the restaurant ordering. During the height of the pandemic, it switched to zero, call it 5% kiosks. We had a few states where we're allowed to do it still. But really it was about, call it 55% of our business was our mobile app, and about 45% or 40% was third-party delivery. We immediately adopted curbside pickup on the app. We just jumped at it. I think we had to make some tough decisions on that Friday, and by Monday we had it. We just worked all weekend and got it going. So, our sales plummeted by 65%. It was scary. We had to cut back big time. I'm in my office over here, which we're moving into. We had a pretty big space out in Fishtown, Philadelphia, which we just said, hey, you know what? We don't need it, and we love it, but just don't need it. So we're saving a few bucks. And at the same time, just back then trying to figure out what do we need to do to grow that top line. Marketed, pushed, did what we had to do. By July of 2020, our top line was pretty close to where it was in 2019. But with the new cost structure on the corporate expense side, really reduced a few things on the P&L in terms of food costs and other items, got it tight. So today we're back into 20% EBITDA territory, doing great. Opened a restaurant during the pandemic. That was our most successful opening we've ever had. And opening 2 more later this year. So just rocking, doing okay.
Wow, what a turnaround into sort of, after that flailing arm chaos of, COVID hitting and then being back in July, looking really good, and then opening a new restaurant. And you just mentioned that's the most successful opening you've had yet. Talk us through that more. Why was it so successful, and how did you do that in the middle of the pandemic?
Yeah, I mean, God, I don't know. It was like we were going to open it before the pandemic hit, and we were probably maybe halfway through with construction. Pandemic hit, and it was just it's about 25 miles west of Philadelphia, suburban Philly, and great location. Everything kind of checked the boxes of what we look for in real estate today, and just opened up. And when I say best opening, really just how I measure that would be called the first 90 days of sales, and essentially have sustained since then, have been better than we've ever seen for any other opening. So I think there was certainly some pent up demand. I think there was some strong market awareness. And again, we've leaned into delivery, which I think helped build that brand awareness for folks who may have not heard of us, who then go into a platform, see a picture of our noodle pole, oh, what's this honeygrow place? And then check it out. And we thankfully deliver.
Perfect. Yeah, that's really, really cool. And I just want to display some images. Laura, if you can bring up some images of some honeygrows, starting with the Exton location there. That's it, right, Justin? Just out of Philly?
Yeah, that's it.
Perfect. Yeah, and I guess how have things shifted moving forward in terms of, you mentioned just now delivery obviously went through the roof for you guys, and that helped you get through the pandemic. How is it different now in terms of what it used to be like pre-pandemic, and how do you think that the dust is going to settle there moving forward into the future?
Yeah, so today, in terms of transaction breakdown, we do about a third kiosk, a third app, and a third delivery. So it's really, again, it really kind of just switched tremendously. I think delivery is here to stay. I don't know if it's going to stay at a third of our business as more folks are coming back to work, more catering happens. I think eventually that will probably maybe go to 20%, but we're also investing in an upgraded app. So I'm really excited about our refreshed app. Our app today, we call it Operation Dad Bod. It's good, not great. It's it's functional and does really well for us from the transaction side, but aesthetically, there's a lot of work that needed to be done, and we're excited to finally to launch it pretty soon, so later this year. So it really fits more of our brand, who we are, gets closer to the kiosk, et cetera. So I think our mobile app business will increase, and certainly I think our kiosk business will continue to maintain.
Did you say that was Operation Dad Bod?
Yeah, it's like
okay.
The whole barrel of apps. It's great, but keep your shirt on. So
okay, right.
it's a good app. It's literally has the curbside pickup. I'm just crazy with making sure design is great, and I think the design on it was fine, right? It was nothing really amazing. We really wanted to spend time to make sure that when you use an app, it feels great and you want to use it again. And there's opportunities for upsell opportunities. There's things for a better rewards program, which we're launching. So it's a lot of stuff under the hood that I'm really excited to get going for later this year.
Yeah, really exciting, and I'm sure your customers are going to notice the difference too. And I'm sure you made just every dad out there watching this really rethink themselves. It's perfect, functional, but keep your shirt on.
Wonderful.
I like it. And look, you mentioned curbside there and how that experience is going to be changing in your app, and obviously you mentioned your quick turnaround there. And before I jump into this, if you are watching this and you have any questions for Justin, throw them in the comments, and we'll hopefully get to some at the end here. But I'm interested in terms of curbside, in terms of the design and the layout of your buildings. I guess you had that quick turnaround. Get the curbside up over a weekend. What did you learn through that process? And from your the physical location standpoint, what's going to possibly be different moving forward now with the curbside? This is something that a lot of brands are still trying to work out.
Yeah. So a lot. So our curbside business really has skyrocketed, and it's pretty cool. I was sitting at one of our locations yesterday, and people have adopted it like it's no big deal. Our app does a very fine job of delivering on that experience, making sure that our team can go out and make sure they find the right person, et cetera. I think Chick-fil-A does it perfect on curbside, or as close to perfect as can be. I think our new app will be very similar, which I was psyched about. So it's something that I think certainly is here to stay. And in terms of the actual restaurant, we're certainly making sure that, hey, do we have enough parking spaces designated for curbside pickup, or do we do some sort of like ring lane to essentially have folks kind of line up and maybe do it that way? So we're really kind of trying to figure that out. And in terms of inside the space, do we need as much dining room space? One of our new locations will be slightly smaller, maybe just a couple hundred square feet less. And one thing to note is you definitely need space for people picking stuff up. So we've always had shelves for app pickup, but today, again, because 2/3 of our business is between app, mobile app, third party, you have a lot of drivers who are going to be coming in. You have a lot of folks coming in waiting for their food who might not be doing curbside pickup. So I think having that, which may require having a few less seats inside the restaurant, may be the way to go. And if we find out that isn't the way, we can always add seats and tables. So we're excited to test this out. It'll be pretty cool.
Yeah, I guess it's in that kind of touch and go period where, there's that, you don't want to jump into making too many drastic changes right away. And that's certainly what we're hearing from the industry at the moment.
For sure.
And Justin, you mentioned, that segmentation of customers there, and you mentioned the drivers, and, they're the customer serving the customer. You mentioned third-party delivery really kind of got you through the pandemic. I've also heard you say in other interviews, you're really grateful for that, but you have your thoughts on third-party delivery. And I'm wondering, how do you see that whole segment of the business playing out right now? How do you see the volatility kind of settling in the next few years? And how do you think restaurants need to, in some cases, perhaps maybe retool their relationships with those aggregators?
Yeah, for sure. So when we first launched delivery, it was 2018, and we were being sold on the idea of it being incremental sales. And at the time, I didn't really see it as incremental sales. I saw it as more converted sales. On top of that, I was vocal in a publication about how I thought it was kind of BS about the claims of this. And on top of it, we had, call it a $700,000 expense that year without seeing that top line increment. So I was pretty frustrated. I'm like, well, why are we doing this? In 2019, we leaned a bit heavier into it, accepted it, and said, all right, let it ride a little bit more. Renegotiated rates with our partners on this. They were great to work with. But it was only 8% of our business. So it wasn't really like, it wasn't going to make or break us. And quite frankly, I think later in the year, we were thinking about just doing an individual, kind of like a singular partner. Long story short, at the beginning of the pandemic, those third-party platforms kept us alive. And if not for that, I don't think we would have been able to not only maintain sales, but build sales. We're comping this year phenomenally well. We're really in the, call it 15, 16% comp over 2019. So, forget 2020. You know, we're really doing well, and I think a lot of it had to do with folks discovering us because of these platforms. So you know, they've been very helpful. They've been good to work with. So yeah, so you know, it's been a nice evolution of the relationship.
Very cool. Yeah, and just to follow up to that, actually, I've got an audience question has just come through from Benjamin Alkire. I'm pronouncing that wrong. I'm sorry, Benjamin. From Deliver That, and he asks, you know, how do you leverage direct-to-customer business versus third-party application? Do you have a plan to drive sales through your stores or the app that you're working on right now, the new app?
Right. So good question. You know, obviously we want to be able to have folks order on the kiosk and order on the app. You know, if you're ordering on DoorDash all the time, great. I think one of the cool things though about ordering on your app, especially with the new app, is going to be the ability to have a better rewards program. So our goal is to make you, quote, sticky, to drive frequency as much as possible. And we hope that once you discover us and convert and check it out, and we're going to be doing some pretty big marketing on it, you'd appreciate it. And we will be delivering on the app. You can deliver on the app now. It's powered by DoorDash. But really, I think the revised rewards program will be great. And I think one other thing to note is that, as you mentioned before, we're 100% app-based. So what does that mean? So you got your third app, you know, coming from the third-party guys right now. You have your mobile app, and a third of our business is our kiosk, which really is just an app. So we will be launching, hopefully later this year or early next year, loyalty will be one program on both the app and the kiosk. So I think we'd be the only fast casual, I don't want to make a false claim here, so I'm putting an asterisk on this. I think we'll be the only fast casual restaurant with the ability to get up to 2/3 of their customer base onto a loyalty platform. So we're really psyched about that. That's something we're going to push later this year. And again, it's because our kiosk is going to be essentially it's an Android app, and our mobile app is just, you know, traditional mobile app.
That's really cool. And mention that asterisk there. If Justin's wrong, put it in the comments if you know that that's not the case. No, it's really cool to see you innovating and constantly thinking about in that space. And obviously, honeygrow being the size that it is, it's really, I guess you're well placed to be able to, you know, keep the flexibility and keep innovating in the space that maybe a lot of other big brands can't, which is very cool. I do want to, just before we haven't got much time, Justin, but I do want to jump back to 2018. You know, you were booming, growth was happening a lot. You'd launched a smaller concept in urban locations with a different service delivery model called Minigrow, and then you had to pull the pin on it all. Talk us through what that was like, and I guess, you know, what did you get out of that experience to where you are now? You know, we don't often like to talk about our failures, but talk about it.
No, I'll happily talk about it. I think, you know, the failures are part of the journey and part of the story. We decided the business challenge we had in 2016 was the cost to build a honeygrow just skyrocketed. We were building in urban areas. We were trying to grow fast. So I came up with the idea of something to be a smaller footprint version of honeygrow that would not require venting. And so theoretically, the construction cost would be less. The menu was awesome. It was, you know, tagline was damn good noodles and greens, freshly made noodles, salads, etc. And simultaneously, we opened up all the textbook things you don't do. Simultaneously, besides a new concept, 7 new markets, brand new executive team, etc. So we wound up opening in 1 year Chicago, Pittsburgh, Boston, Minigrow, New York, DC. I mean, I like blacked out that entire period of my life almost, but it certainly was painful. And, you know, long story short, by the beginning of 18, we started seeing some big issues, you know, just the new Minigrows the rents were crazy in Manhattan. You know, you kind of, you know, when you're doing all this stuff and opening successfully for years, sometimes you don't realize you're being arrogant you're arrogant without realizing you're being arrogant. And, you know, we got a quick punch to the gut on that. Like, oh man, maybe this isn't going to work. So we scaled back and said, look, you know what, let's pull the plug on this. We had 3 restaurants in Chicago, honeygrow. We had one that was doing great. And then one day somebody walked in with measles and it was on the news. And I'm like, it's a sign from God. You know, we need to catch our breath. I think we really came out of the gate a little too quickly. We have some work to do. I'm very lucky. I have a great, very supportive group of investors that were behind it and said, great, do what you got to do. And it was painful. You know, we had certainly some negative press, competitors of ours trying to steal our exec team, and people just saying, oh, honeygrow is over. And I love those moments because I'm like a wartime general. I'm like, let's fucking go. I don't know if I can say that on there, but we buckled down hard. I know, I just did. So our team, we dove in, and really by the middle of 19, things really were turning around. By the beginning of 20, things were much better. We were ready to rock again. And then, of course, COVID, and we emerged from COVID, quite frankly, stronger than ever from a financial perspective. So we now build the honeygrow models. It's close to a 3-to-1 sales to investment ratio. We're back at 20% forward EBITDA. Company is extremely profitable. So thank God we're in a good space, and we are going to be growing very differently and intelligently. And we're looking to get out there and get bigger. But we're not going to do some crazy stuff and new concepts, and we're going to lean and mean. But we're excited to grow fast.
Perfect. Yeah, it seems like a really exciting time. And obviously, you mentioned those 2 locations that you're rolling out this year. And thanks for taking us down that memory lane of pain. And really glad to see you got back from the stomach punch and caught your breath. And Justin, we just before I wrap up, we have one other question from the audience from Ron Z from Antunes. Just on labor challenges, how have those challenges been for you in terms of labor, and are you looking at automation solutions to help with any labor issues? I'm guessing on top of having kiosks, what else are you doing to combat that?
Yeah, right now, supply chain labor, 2 insane issues, and coincidentally, those are the 2 biggest line items on your P&L. Really, with labor, we're just incentivizing through bonuses, retention bonuses, referral bonuses. It's been tough in terms of automation. Nothing today. I mean, I think there'll be more technology in the near future that we're certainly going to take a look at. There's wage pressure. There's supply pressure. And we want our team to grow with us. So we want to make sure we have people, obviously. I don't think there's, I think there's concepts out there now that it's just fully automated, and there's a lack of soul to that, which I personally don't like. I think there's a balance of a great experience and being profitable. So we're gonna explore that and try to maintain that soul of the brand. And then I mentioned supply chain. Anyone who's out there, it's all the restaurants are opening at once. Everything from protein prices to supply of paper goods is being smacked. So we're doing our best to manage that and partnering with our vendors and figuring out solutions. But right now we're doing okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Justin. And thanks, Ron, and also Benjamin, for your questions. And we're very nearly out of time, Justin, but I wonder if I could just subject you to one last part of the show, if you're okay with that.
Sure.
And it's called the bouncer. Justin, are you familiar with the game of cricket at all?
I'm kidding. I know cricket, but I don't know how to play it.
Gotcha. But yeah, no one knows how to play it because it's so boring. But basically, look, the bouncer, this segment, a bouncer is basically the cricket version of a curveball that you would get in baseball. So I'm pretty sure you know what kind of question it might be. It's from left field. You don't really know. It's keeping on your toes. Would you like a bouncer question?
Why not?
Okay. Now, I've been stalking you a bit on the internet, Justin, and I saw you practice jiu-jitsu. I am familiar with jiu-jitsu just because I watched Joe Rogan, and it's a kind of Brazilian martial arts.
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, I found some pictures on the internet, Laura. If you can bring some of those up, just so people can see, this is old school jiu-jitsu. It's pretty intense. That guy's getting choked out.
That's mornings. Yeah.
That's Keanu Reeves jiu-jitsu. And I also found this, Justin. Last year, a film came out, Jiu-Jitsu, with Tony Jaa and Nicolas Cage. Two things.
Frank Grillo is the man. Frank Grillo, I love him. He's in Kingdom. That's a great show that was on Netflix.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well, there you go. Netflix plug for you. Two things. What's your involvement with jiu-jitsu? And secondly, will you watch this film if you haven't already?
I will not watch that movie, other than maybe, Frank Grillo is the man. If it's anything like Kingdom, then I'll watch it. My involvement with jiu-jitsu, I'm a blue belt. I call myself a low-rung blue belt because I get choked out by everybody. I was going 4 days a week in the mornings at 7 a.m. Shout out to my 7 a.m. crew here in Philadelphia. And COVID happened, and I have not been back, and I am dying to go back. My oldest daughter just got vaccinated, her second shot today. So that for me feels like it's the green light to get going. So I'm pretty psyched. It's a mental, physical release from me. It's meditative and it's awesome. It's really fun. So that's an easy curve. That's like,
well, I guess I just want to advance on that. I mean, first of all, I've never heard someone be so excited about the notion of getting choked out. That sounds horrifying to me.
It's horrible, but you learn to choke people out, so it's kind of fun. That's okay.
Okay, all right, good. Well, I think I would get snapped in half. But Justin, just as we finish up here, another bouncer, jiu-jitsu, and I know you meditate every day. What do these practices lend to you in terms of how you lead, how you run honeygrow and work with your team? What things do you learn from those practices that you incorporate every day?
Yeah, that's a great question. Look, anyone that is a leader in any company or anywhere, sports team, you're the role model, right? So you really have to set the tone. You're the conductor. You have to set the tone for the rest of the group. And I think if I'm in a bad mood, everyone's going to be in a bad mood. If I'm going to be mercurial, everyone's going to be the same way. And I need to create an environment that's going to create a great culture. I like to think our culture is an idea culture where we're fiercely debating stuff all the time, good, bad, whatever it's going to be, to really move the business forward. Meditation for me completely resets my brain. I'm calm. It's great. Jiu-jitsu, same thing. And I think during the pandemic, one thing that I learned was that, happiness, not to get all, crazy here, but happiness is like a muscle. Like you really have to work at it. It takes reps. Everyone's going to have good days and bad days, but if you can be consistent, I think that's a sign of being a good leader. That's something that, I aspire to be every day.
Perfect. Well, it's, happiness is a muscle. I know I could definitely learn from that. And thank you, Justin. Thank you for giving us some insight there. And also thank you for joining us on Disrupt today. That's basically all the time we have for today. But before you go, you mentioned our last event and hanging out with Weezer. This next Restaurant Spaces, which is happening this year, what musical act would you like to see?
That's a good one. Well, Weezer is amazing. This is a good bounce question because now I'm like, damn, I don't know who I'd want to see. I mean, who have I been listening to lately? I mean, I love Tool. That's a great band. I don't think I was going to want to rush to see them like they saw, whatever. I don't know. I should probably look at my Spotify list and think about that a bit more. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely swing us a recommendation. We'd love to hear it. And the same goes with anyone else out there. What musical act would you like to see at Restaurant Spaces? But Justin, look, I ain't going to take any more of your time. Thank you for joining us on Disrupt today and sharing your experience. Thanks so much.
Thanks for having me. Anytime, man. Thank you.
No worries. Excellent. Thank you, Justin. And look, that was Disrupt. That is episode 4. Hope you liked it. Next week, we hopefully will be running a Disrupt again. We don't have a guest yet. We've had a scheduling conflict. So sorry about that, but keep your eyes and ears tuned for any announcements that we make. Follow our Restaurant Spaces page to see who our guest will be next week. And like I just mentioned with Justin, we are making a return to our live event. Restaurant Spaces hasn't happened since the very eve of COVID last March, but we are returning in October, happening the 17th to the 19th of October in Palm Springs. And you know what? We are actually announcing our initial program next week. So get pumped for it. Follow our page here on LinkedIn, and we'll put a link in the comments there to our live event page as well, so you can keep up to date with all the announcements that we are going to be having. And hopefully we see you in Palm Springs in October. But enough of that. Thank you so much for joining us on Disrupt episode 4. Hope you like the conversation. Tell your friends, tell your people. We'd love them to tune in every Thursday, 1 p.m. Eastern as well. And hey, enjoy the rest of your week. So we'll see you later.
I'm gonna act up. I'ma need you to back up. I'ma need you to back up. Yep. I'ma need you to back up. Spilling the tea, you stirring the